Welcome to Tap Connect, the digital transformation podcast. Today's episode, we have Paul George and Sachin Chudasama, two experts in the field of digital transformation. Together, they will be discussing the impact of technologies such as AI and no-code, which is driving intelligent digital inspections. So join us as we explore these future technologies and the impact EVs will have on the automotive industry.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Sachin.
Paul, today we're going to talk about a topic that's really close to our hearts, and that's automotive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're a right pair of petrol heads, both being really interested in cars. Petrol heads. So, with combustion engines soon to be no more, and it's just going to be, electric vehicles and maybe hydrogen cars as well. I don't think we can be called petrol heads anymore. So what, are we going to be called electric heads?
Don't sound the same though, does it? I prefer petrol heads.
No, I think we'll stick to petrol heads no matter what. So, Sachin, we're here today to discuss and talk about digitisation for automotive. We've seen quite a lot of change in the last 20 years.
We certainly have. So obviously people in the automotive industry have been using traditionally pen and paper, and obviously they're moving over to using digitised methods, whether it be tablets, mobile devices, etc. And the whole point behind it is to bring that data into reality in real time.
No, absolutely. There are still people out there, there's still businesses that are using paper and spreadsheet systems to run their businesses in automotive. Much of the larger businesses have digitised, but there's still sort of gaps and holes in their processes where they still are using paper template forms and spreadsheets. But we've seen a lot of digitisation and some really large organisations as well have digitised with us. One of the largest rental businesses, certainly in the UK, but have got quite a global presence as well. And they've digitised using this platform. We've seen the what you could describe them as a fourth emergency service, quite well known, but they've embraced digitisation as well, moved away from these sort of paper processes and manual processes and spreadsheets. And we've also seen the largest UK independent inspection services that works on behalf of all the big brands move away from paper, again, template forms and spreadsheet processes.
So Paul, why are we seeing this big change in the industry? Is it because vehicles are now considered as a monetary item, and obviously the asset needs to be inspected at various stages? Do you reckon that's true?
Yeah, there's a lot of processes that have been digitised. We've seen the sales process that's been introduced there to capture data on people on leads for brochures and test drives. All that used to be on paper, and like you say, that becomes not reportable because it's sort of stuck on there as an image. Whereas if you capture it electronically, you can put that in a database in a structured way and you can get all the reporting. And you can also get real-time processing and real-time visibility of that as well. I remember back, this was one of our first clients about 20 years ago. They collected their leads data on cards, on paper cards. So postcodes were written down wrong, addresses were written down wrong. Sometimes names weren't even recorded by mistake. There was no contact details. All those kind of things, when you put them into a digital format onto an application, you can put mandatory controls on there and validation, and you can then ensure that you capture all the required data. It won't actually let you submit the form unless it's validated data in there. You've captured it all. So, by digitising these processes, have made them more valid. Like you say, they're there in real time. They can be processed. In fact, I think, if I remember right too, we had to slow the process down. You could instantly get a brochure as an electronic form in an email, and you could still be on the stand or at the dealership, and it might be just a little bit too soon. You want to actually delay that. Maybe that's what they get when they get home. So it's kind of waiting for them there, in their email, and not really before. So yeah, lots of processes digitised. It was that. We've also got vehicle movements, vehicle inspections, vehicle repairs. All these processes have been digitised.
So Paul, the good thing about using obviously technology to drive data is not only for obviously digitising processes that are obviously previously manual, but also compliance, because obviously GDPR is obviously the big thing at the moment, making sure that obviously user data is actually captured in a meaningful way, and also marketing options and various other compliance is actually met. So obviously, tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, again, when you move it to a digital format, that's actually much more easy to actually deliver, and keep to that legislation. So when you actually capture somebody's personal details against an inquiry about a vehicle, say for instance, they would normally sort of tick a box to actually say, yep, I'm happy that my information has been handled in this way. And we can obviously, they can be delivered that digitally as well. And that can be changed quite easily too. Whereas on paper processes, that's not easily changed.
It's all disconnected.
Absolutely. And and then you need to have a whole sort of process around the paper form itself as to, where do I store it? Where do I move that data to if I do? What happens if I get a request for that data to be destroyed? What's the process to follow for that? So that's much more complicated when you actually use it, when you're actually doing it manually.
So as businesses normally say, the new oil is actually the data. So the data is the new oil within a business. So obviously, as I've seen as well, doing some analytics, I've seen in the events and marketing world, I've seen women, for example, when they're buying vehicles, they'll actually say, I've got to consult my husband. So you can actually see these buying habits, and using a wide array of data that's being captured, you can actually start to profile leads. So you can actually say that, if there's a lady or a gentleman of a certain age who's got a vehicle that needs to be obviously traded in for them to buy a new one, then obviously the actual lead capture will actually then decipher what vehicle and what buying process they'll go through as the next stages. So the data is really interesting.
You're right. It becomes like oil, as valuable as oil to a business. I would say it's their most valuable asset, and we've had this conversation many times. We know it's their most valuable asset. It gives you a lot of insight. So we know without data, we don't have management information, MI. We don't have business information, BI. We don't have machine learning. Machine learning needs data for that. And of course, what's the big one everyone's talking about? AI. It needs data as well. So by capturing that data digitally and getting good historic data, very granular data as well, as you said, buy-in trends can be seen through that data. I mean, we've seen also predictive data in respect that, inspections we know is a very common process that's been digitized. And you can start to predict when a vehicle is actually going to break down or a part's going to fail. So yeah, lots and lots of rich information that's nigh on priceless to a business.
That's an interesting topic, Paul, because I remember we did a project for a client, and this particular client had data spanning years and years, and quite clearly we could actually give them some predictive analytics. So based on a 2008 Ford Fiesta done 60,000 miles, we could actually tell the inspector the ball joints will fail. The gearbox may be a bit iffy. The clutch may be on its way out. So we're actually prompting the inspector on a digital tablet to say, look at these items first before they move on to their next topic in terms of the inspection process.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know also you can go down to granular detail there. If the vehicle's done, I don't know, low mileage, it's only doing 5,000 miles a year. It could be not necessarily a time that it happens. It could be due to lack of use sometimes. So if it's not used enough, we've seen vehicles that have been running at 12,000 miles a year, and they don't have the problems that the cars, the drivers of vehicles would have only been using them 5,000 miles a year. So I knew that from my petrol head comment earlier, that there are vehicles there that it's actually unhealthy for them to be sitting in a garage doing no miles at all. They need to be run.
So Paul, if you kind of look at the whole kind of automotive industry at a bird's eye view, it's all about money. I mean, in 2021, the UK industry, the automotive industry in the UK was 67 billion. And that was pumped into the economy by the manufacturers, component manufacturers, automotive manufacturers. There was 14 billion profit that was experienced by these component and automotive manufacturers. I think there was about 7 billion in R&D. So obviously it's a money machine, and obviously using digitization, using technology, that ring fences ROI for any business, because they're actually using technology to drive their assets. They're actually sweating their assets. The more you inspect a vehicle, the more you are obviously on top of the vehicle, and that means you can actually run it for longer.
So, Sachin, we've digitised all manner of processes, but the one process, the common process that goes for all of these different types of digitisation projects, let's say, that we've delivered on, has been inspections, so vehicle inspections. And of course, that's not just been about an inspection of a condition and report, but it can be an inspection, before a repair. It can be an inspection before a movement for responsibility, and once it's dropped off, an inspection for a handover. So all sorts of inspection. Of course, there's rental inspections as well. So, just explain the technology beneath this that's delivering all these inspection processes.
Good question, Paul. So, Paul, we've seen the adoption of no-code technology. And what that means is basically our platform has a number of pre-built controls. So traditionally, software is written using lines and lines of code. We have pre-built controls, which means that people can use our controls to their benefit. Let it be vehicle checks, integration into third-party systems, HPI lookups, for example. We actually massage data in real time. So fire off a vehicle registration number to an API, and we just get back the vehicle make, model, color, number of seats, engine size. Whereas traditionally, those things could take ages, could take minutes. It's all manually written down or manually keyed in, which is prone to error.
Yeah, I mean, you say minutes, but obviously minutes per inspection, and there's thousands of inspections being done. That all adds up, of course, over time.
Absolutely.
So, Sachin, no code. For our audience, there's going to be a lot of people out there, maybe the majority, that haven't actually heard of that term. And of course, we know for our conversations with clients, that is much the case at the moment, although we absolutely know that's going to change over the next months, maybe a couple of years. So, no code, it shortens the software development life cycle. It means you can build applications much quicker. I know against traditional development, can be at least 20 times quicker. You can do it with smaller teams, and you can do it at a much more lower cost. So if you can do it at a lower cost, obviously that's going to give a great business case for digitisation.
So, Paul, we've covered a lot in this podcast. We've covered the past, the current. Let's look at the future.
There is a big change in the future, as we alluded to, and everybody knows, no more combustion cars in the next few years. It's all going to be EVs. It's all going to be, or maybe hydrogen cars as well. The whole platform is changing. So one thing I know about that is the fact that, brakes, for instance, on cars, they'll last the lifetime of a vehicle. No more combustion engines. So what happens there? It's all, trays of batteries and, built into the subframes.
Yeah, so a vehicle has 30,000 components. I think manufacturers are going to be tier one manufacturers of their own components within vehicles. So we're going to see a big change in the automotive industry. So the good thing is manufacturers will become tier one software providers as well. So they'll be making software that drives their own components within vehicles. As we know, EVs, they've got no engines. So EVs are very easy to service. EVs are more kind of electronic, if you think about it. Each and every component within the actual EV vehicle will be computerized, where the actual dealership will know when it's going wrong. So it will take out the customer or negate the customer as the middleman, because the dealership will know when the vehicle has an issue, and it will actually book the vehicle in and be on behalf of the customer.
Yep. We know that vehicles now, the electric vehicles especially, have anything up to or around 3,000 microchips built within the car to make them operate. And your servicing, for sure, it's not going to be as much as because there's no moving parts in that respect. There'll still be some sort of servicing there, but a lot of this stuff's going to be done over the air. Just like our PCs will download an update, vehicles will be downloading updates. And of course, I'm understanding also that they can you can increase the speed of a vehicle with a software upgrade. Obviously, at the moment, combustion engine with an ECU on there, you can get them, what's the term, chipped?
Yeah.
Yep, you can get them chipped, and you can turn something that's got, I don't know, 200 brake horsepower into 250 with the press of a button. That has to happen with the ECU being interrogated, and it's a manual process, but things in the future are going to be software driven and over the air.
So, Paul, we've had a fantastic time talking about automotive, but I think we've got to wrap it up now. I think we've said enough today.
Yeah, absolutely. Really enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next one. Thanks, Sachin.